Hi friends, this is Shekhar Srinivasan, Managing Director, LS Solutions Private Limited, CEO for LookTV.net. Mobile applications these days are getting more important and popular. Two main streams in mobile application development, one is Android, the other one is iOS. Microsoft people are left behind and Microsoft developers are also interested in developing Android application and they need a way to do. Fortunately, we have been introduced with Mono for Android. With the help of Mono for Android, these days it is called as Xamarin Android. With the support of Xamarin Android, now even Visual Studio.net using C# or VB.net, we can develop Android as well as iOS applications. In this video, we will try to understand how we can able to install Xamarin Android for Visual Studio.net, and then how do we develop a basic application with the support of Mono for Android or Xamarin Android using C#. And also we will have a clear idea on using the template and the layout along with form elements. Let's start with the demo. Your first step is to download the Xamarin Unified Installer. The software you can find at http://www.xamarin.com/download. If you have purchased Xamarin.Android, then the instructions for configuring with Visual Studio.net will be provided in the email. So you can follow the instructions at the email and configure with Visual Studio.net. Once the Xamarin installer is downloaded, start the installer. Then you will find a screen similar to this. Click on Next. Choose which features to install. Ensure that Xamarin.iOS is selected and then click on Next. Agree to the Android installation location. If you are installing Xamarin.Android, click on Next. Choose which features to install. Ensure that Xamarin.iOS is ticked and then click on Next. Tick the checkbox to accept the license agreement. Click on Next. The status bar shows installation progress. Progress for each and every product will be displayed. Click on Next. Once installation is complete, you will see another progress window while configuring. Click on Next. Once the installation is done, Visual Studio.net will be started automatically in the background. You can start developing the applications right away. Just click on the close button to close the installation window and to exit the installer. Now let's first start how to create an Android application with the support of Visual Studio.net. Let's understand the template provided for us, the project libraries, and also we will try to understand now how to create a Hello World application, execute with the support of emulator, and also we will try to understand how to use the table layout and the form elements. Let's start with the demo. Now let's try to open Visual Studio.net, where I just click on File menu, New, Project. Once I click on Project, I find a template with a name called as Android under Visual C#. Whenever you install Xamarin.Android, then automatically you get a new template with the name Android, and we have a list of templates that you can just select from for developing the application. Let's try to select Android application. Provide some meaningful name for the application. My first Android app. I just click on OK. This is going to create an Android project, and it will open the very first file for us called as activity1.cs, where you can consider an activity as any Windows form or ASP.NET page. Here you will observe main launcher dot equal to true. This is going to specify that this activity is going to be the startup activity or the startup page for your application. And also you find an icon which represents your application on the Android device. Now let's try to check out what are all the folders that you will get when you create an Android application. Let me open the Solution Explorer. I find very much similar folder structure as of any Windows Forms application. The first, your properties, where I find something called as assembly.info.cs, which is very much equivalent to the assembly information file present in Windows application. You find additionally Android manifest.xml. Along with that, you find references, which is very much again similar to Windows Forms application of C#, provided a new namespace reference will be there called as mono.android, which will be used for deploying our application on the Android device. You find some folder with a name called as assets, which provides the information about the files that you wanted to bundle along with your application while deploying your application to the Android device, such as the images that you wanted to copy, some text files you wanted to put. All that content you place within the assets. Resources is the place where we try to spend most of the time. If you just try to observe it, the icon of the application is drawable/icon. It's nothing but the content which is present within the drawable. If you want, we can change the icon, but that's the place where you will be finding it. Under the layout, you will find main.axml file, which is the designer for your Android application. When I try to open this particular main.axml file, you will have two options. One is the design, the other one is the source. When I just try to open the toolbox, and if I try to place any kind of control within the designer surface, then an equivalent XML source will be generated for us. And you have one more additional folder with a name called as values and a file with a name called as strings.xml. Anytime you wanted to maintain some kind of resource information for achieving globalization, then we can try to maintain within the values. Now let's try to execute this application. And let's try to test this particular thing within the emulator. What is the default code we are going to get from the template which has been provided. Later we will try to understand what is this code and how we can able to create. To make the things faster, I already started my emulator, so you can just select the emulator which has been available and running. Else, if you wanted to start something new, you can click on Start Emulator Image. Once I click on OK, your application package is going to be deployed onto the device. So you can just observe it, some message like detecting and copying application to device. So this is going to copy the application to the Android emulator. Let's see what is the output that we are going to get now. And emulator is quite slow. and you can see that a message deploy succeeded, which means that application is going to be deployed on the device. And once the application is deployed onto this device, this particular application on this device you can use for 24 hours within this device. So once I just click on it, I'm seeing some message called as 2 clicks, 3 clicks, etc. This is a simple application which has been developed for us. Now let us try to examine the code what is provided for us within this. To observe it, first let us try to open main.xaml source code, which is an XML file where you find a linear layout, and we have a button where the ID for the button has been given as my button and the text has been provided as hello. Now let's try to open the activity.cs file. Within the activity.cs file we will try to provide the complete logic, where we just try to first identify that the layout. So I'm saying that the content for this thing will be resource.layout.main, where main is going to be the main.axml file. Once I identified this, I need to first identify the button which the user has clicked on. So I try to find view by ID, where I try to take the button from my resource ID. The name of the button is my button. So I'm trying to identify the button, and I'm trying to delegate that whenever the user is going to click on the button, we just have a simple string dot format. We just trying to increment the count by 1 whenever the user clicks on the button. And that's the reason why within that particular device, whenever the user was clicking on the hello, we are able to get 1 click and 2 click. Now let us try to understand how do we start everything from the scratch, and let's write a simple hello world application. To do this, what I try to do was, I try to first go for the layouts, and let me just try to add a layout, a new item, and I select a layout with a name called as Android layout. I select a meaningful name with a name called as hello world.axml, and then I click on add. We got a layout added. By default, the layout what you will find is a linear layout. Let me just try to place one button. And let me just try to open the properties window. The text for this particular property I would like to provide as hello world. And once I provided the ID for this, I provide as btn hello. Now my requirement is, whenever the user clicks on the hello world, I wanted to get a notification saying that welcome to Android application. To do that, I try to go for my activity. First I have to specify that the resource which I am going to use is layout.hello world. Until or unless you try to build the solution, the namespace will not be identified. So now once I builded the solution, we have a layout called as hello world. I need to identify the resource button. So if you can recollect, I just provided a button find by view. I type to go for the button resource dot id dot button hello. Now this btn is going to reference to the button hello present within our view. Now my requirement is whenever the user clicks on the button, I would like to add an event handler. So this is somewhat similar to that like our any Windows Forms application. Now my requirement is I wanted to prepare a simple message and I wanted to show. So whenever you have a requirement to provide some kind of notification, then we can just specify the content. I say welcome to Android application using Visual C#. I just try to give the reference ID as this, and the toast length, this is a short information, so I say short dot show. So I just wanted to show a simple notification saying that whenever the user is going to click on this, I just wanted to make this information. One sec. This. Sorry. First we have to specify the context, then the message, and then this. Once we're done with this, let's try to now execute this application. I select the running Android device so that it will be a bit faster than selecting the default one. So waiting for the device, detecting the installed packages, the removing previous version of the application, which you can just observe it. And now you can see that copying the application to the device. Since we are using an emulator for projecting the content, it will be quite slow. Now the installation has been done, synchronizing the assemblies, and finally your application has deployed successfully. Now I try to find a simple application, and you can see that a message stating that this will be available for 24 hours. So no problem, this is a demo. I have a button with the name called as Hello World. When I just click on it, now you can see that I get a message saying that welcome to Android application using Visual C#. This is our first Android application. Now let's try to understand how we can able to develop some application with the user interface also. Let me just try to add one more layout. I simply say add new item. I select the Android layout with form elements. Let's assume that I wanted to have some tabular layout like a form I wanted to display. So what I try to do was I take a table layout where I wanted to provide some kind of label. In our Android application, if you wanted to display some kind of normal text, we can take the support of text view. So I just try to place a text view. I go to the properties for the text view, and I would like to give some meaningful name like say username, and then I want to accept the user information. These are the available form elements for collecting the user. So since username is a plain text, I drag and drop a control called as plain text, and I would like to provide a meaningful name for this thing. The ID for this I just specify it as txt user name. Remember this, even though it is a text box, it is a widget of type edit text that we have to remember. And I just wanted to make sure that this is going to occupy the entire space. So what I try to do was, we have been provided with a property called as layout width, which I just make it as 1, so that it will try to give one space for the resource that are placed, and remaining things will be filled by this element. Likewise, I try to take one more plain text here. I try to place a text view here, where the text I try to provide it as password. Since it is going to be a password, I try to place a control called as password, and once I specify the password, the ID I just specify it as txt password. Even you can just observe it, password is a edit text. I would like to set the layout width so that it will also occupy the same. Once I specify the layout weight, next what I try to do is I try to take a button and for this particular button the ID I just specify, for example, btn login, and the text what I try to do is I just specify it as login. Now my requirement is when the user is going to click on this login, I want to collect the value of username and password, and I just wanted to show what is the value entered on this. To do this, I try to once again open activity1.cs. Then let me first build the solution so that we can find out the resources at the design time itself. So the first thing I have to specify the content view which I am going to provide is which layout. So I say layout dot with form elements, and then let me just try to comment these lines. I have a requirement to identify the button. So first I try to say button btn. I just specify find by view button resource dot id dot btn login. That's the resource which I just want to identify, and then whenever the user is going to click on it, I just go for an event handler. So within the btn click event handler, what I try to do was I try to define two variables. One is username, the other one is password. I wanted to collect the value for username and password. So I try to say edit text, edit text. So I try to say user, or say t user equal to find by view edit text resource dot id dot txt username. So this value I will be trying to capture within this. Then I say edit text tpwd equal to find by, I just simply type in edit text resource dot id dot txt password. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to collect the values from the controls which is present within the edit. Once I done with this, so for the string value tuser dot text, and for password I just specify password dot text. So once I collected the value, let me format the message. So I say string message equal to string dot format username and then the password. So I try to pass on the values. So working with the Android application using C# is quite simple and easy. If you are comfortable with C#, developing an Android application through C# is as simple as developing any Windows Forms application or Web Forms application. So I just pass on the message toast length dot short dot show, and let's try to execute this application. There are no running device. Now let me click on start emulator image. So it will display the list of available. You can select any emulator and say OK. The emulator has been started. Once that emulator is available, it will show that particular emulator on the running devices like the one which I shown earlier. Now select the emulator and we click on OK. Then automatically the packaging will be performed. It identifies the device, detects the installed packages, so if any previous versions of applications are there, it gets removed. So the first time it takes quite a long time. So once the application gets copied to the device, the assembly gets synchronized and deployed successfully now, and we can see a message. This will be working for 24 hours. Now you can just try to observe it. The application has deployed onto the device. We can see the keyboard. I can type in the name the user provides there, and you can also type in the password. Since it is a password, you can just try to check out this, and once I provided this, I just click on login. Now you can see a toast message. The value is what I provided. Username is Shaker, password is Sri. Hope you're clear with this application, and now I think you got a clear idea how to use a C# for start developing Android applications. Hope you have enjoyed this video as much as I prepared this video. In case if you have any kind of queries, clarifications, you can feel free to send me a mail to the mail IDs which were scrolling down on this video. Thank you. Happy programming.